We're going to go on now to Mr. Corellian's review of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
But not too many people have read it, and there's quite a few misconceptions about the book. And I want to clear up some of those misconceptions before I really start into this review. First of all, Mr. Hyde was a brute and was an evil, violent man, but he was no Incredible Hulk. In fact, in the book, he's described as a small person, mostly because the evil side of Jekyll, which Mr. Hyde is the physical embodiment of, was less nurtured and less developed than Mr. Jekyll himself. Everybody in the book that's seen Mr. Hyde in person actually says that they can't really describe what he looks like.
Go ahead, Thanos.
He also opens up with a joke about us. Logan, review spot, you're in your late 20s, right? YouTube Vince, right?
Yeah. Well, mid-20s.
Mid-20s, yeah. And Eric, you're
I'm
early
19.
30s, 12 or something, right? So
I was going to say, I know Spot's older than I am.
yeah, okay. So this
32.
So this joke is actually mainly directed towards me, and
Only Spot, only because of context that you've given in videos before. That's the only reason I said that.
anyway, this is the first time I've seen a joke in a video directed at me, and it's interesting and funny at the same time.
I don't know if it was directed at you. I think he might
I mean-
think that, because he says most of you are like older than me, so I think it might have been he just thinks that everyone's older than they are.
Well,
Well,
it's
yeah.
an easy assumption to make.
It is, because, I think in like 3-4 episodes, my age has been brought up a couple times. So it was kind of funny.
Well, this book was from your childhood, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I've never had a chance to read the book, actually. I'm one of those people who knows everything about the story, or thinks they do, and never actually even read the original source material. So I really did enjoy that. I like the fact that he's able to talk about the historical perspective of the book, because it is designed to be a mystery. And, well, I mean, we know on page 1 what the mystery is. I enjoyed it overall. What do you guys think?
I personally think it would have been nice if he put spoiler in there, because I had no idea that was going to happen at the end of the book. Totally ruined it for me. Totally ruined it. I'm not even gonna see the made-for-TV movie on this, because now he's already told me the ending of it.
Wait. There's a film version of this?
I think there was.
There's only about 76 of them.
There was 1 or 2 made, I think.
I don't know, that's a pretty underground thing to make a movie of. I don't know what they were thinking.
I know, that and
The
Christmas
best
Carol.
one was the best one was Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. I'm just saying.
This is a really indie book he picked. I'm not sure how he found it. It's really.
He only sold like 12 copies, and he's one of
I
them.
think it's based on an old video game or something. I don't know.
I actually found this review to be very relaxing. I don't know about everybody else, but I was very relaxed. I was informed. I was overall I really enjoyed the video as a whole. I would almost say I preferred it versus his last challenge. It just seemed like he was speaking not only from a critic, but also a fan that has read the book, has appreciated the book, and it seems to me the way he talks during this video, it seems like not only has he read it the first time, but he's probably read it ongoing 10, 20 times, and you can really feel that he's really enjoyed the book itself. I like that he establishes enough of the book. He kind of talks about the characters, but it doesn't get to the point where the review gets too drawn out and you kind of get tired of watching it. I find it paces itself pretty good, and I was entertained throughout the whole thing. It was very relaxing.
It's never to just laugh.
It gives him power.
I'm gonna go a little bit different. I'm not negative, but I kind of nothing to the review. Like, I didn't really like it or really dislike it. Like, I was like, well, that was a adequate review. Like, it wasn't like I was like, that was really bad or that was good. The one thing I did really like out of the video was the talking about the differences from the book to other versions. It's one of those things that I feel like people, because I've also read the book, and I think I've probably had the same conversation with people where like, did you know that this is different in the book? It's what I always think it's interesting when you go back to things and things everybody knows are different. A Christmas Carol's like that too. It's different.
I was just
in
going to
the book.
say that as well.
Yeah, then how everybody knows it. And I always think that's interesting. So I really like that he talked about that. I like the fact that he addresses that the book, unlike any other version that I've ever seen, is really a mystery. And it's kind of ruined, but that, he says it still holds up. I thought that was a really interesting angle to play into. and I actually didn't like the book, and his review actually made the book sound more interesting than I actually thought it was. So, props on that one.
I think this was a step up from his review last week. His thoughts really came together. Last week he was a lot more incoherent. Not incoherent. That's not the right word to use. But his thoughts were jumbled.
He was disorganized.
Yeah, it wasn't to the point. And this one, it was extremely well organized. And even if it was improv, he did a very good job of pointing his thoughts toward an ultimate goal. It's gutsy for this guy to review things. I mean, apparently he hadn't reviewed a movie before. I think we talked about that last time. So I'm going to assume that he hadn't reviewed a book. It's gutsy to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, or typically outside of your comfort zone. I thought it was gutsy to choose a novel and try to fit it into a 7-minute review. However, I think in some ways choosing a novel is not exactly safe because, of course, novels have changed over a period of time, but elitism being what it is, classics maintain a position of authority over what we consider to be good bestsellers. So firmly, concisely defines the character and the genre, and the theme. He discusses the social climate of the era. Well, he just gets into everything that I'd really care to know about a book that's not just plot. I think it was a very good review, and the only thing that I'm curious about is whether or not he thought the book was a critique of the era's prudishness and propriety, because I thought that was somewhere where it was going, and then he didn't touch on that.
I think he's doing a great job just playing this game. He's chosen 3 different media now, which is really quite cool. I actually have not read the book myself. I'm somewhat ashamed to say, and I was not I either didn't know or didn't remember that Jekyll and Hyde were like thought to be 2 different people until the very end, and so. I don't know. I was really impressed with it. I was surprised by how much material he managed to fit into the amount of time. He was good to talk about supporting characters and different things, and he certainly had a good historical perspective on it. And it was I agree totally with what Review Spot said about it just being a relaxing review. I think Corellian would be great as a college professor. I think he'd be a lot of fun to listen to a lecture from.
He's already got the laugh.
Corellian, if you ever teach college, I'd like to attend one of your courses. And now we go on to someone who fancies himself a professor, the evil professor, and his Night of the Living Dead review.
Now, before we get going too far, there is one thing I'd like to point out on this main title screen. You notice, yep, it says Night of the Living Dead, that's what it is, but there is something that's missing. There's no copyright notice. I will come back to that. Now, the plot. Well, you know what? I'm not going to go into too much because I don't want to spoil anything. The movie may be 40 years old, but there's a chance you haven't seen it. Essentially, it's a number of strangers who are trapped in a house in the middle of BF nowhere who are trying to survive the night as hordes of these creatures that do look like people, kind of, slowly, and I do mean slowly, advance on them.
And back to The Real Manos.
I have seen this film countless times, actually, and I've actually seen different cuts of it, too. So it's nice to see him take a shot at it. I wish he had discussed a little bit more about, I don't know, maybe it's better that he didn't, but there's a few different cuts that exist of this film, and he does kind of get into that a little bit when he discusses the copyright. I think that was kind of a cool move to put in. And see, that's one of the mistakes. The film was not copyrighted well or at all, so it's public domain, which has led to so many different weird cuts. There's a new director's cut, with some awful added scenes. There's an animated version where people just kind of animated over the film. Yeah, I know. There's a 3D version. I mean, it's all over the place. Maybe I wish he'd got onto that maybe a little bit. And this is a genre-creating film, too. I mean, all apocalyptic zombie fun fests, started from this film.
Well, the modern zombie, really.
Yeah, yes. I mean, zombies did exist, but it was more of the voodoo kind of zombie.
Well, and he did touch on that.
He did touch on that. He did. I also like how he started holding the DVD, like he does the toy reviews, and then go into the clips. My favorite thing about them, actually, was that one shot of the zombies, and he has a little text like, grrr.
Love that.
That was very cool, very subtle. I enjoyed that a lot. So yeah, I like this video a lot. I'm not sure if I have anything really negative to say.
I really have to commend the evil professor for what seems to be really stepping his game up. I've tried to review movies and videos and stuff like that. Ultimately, it's just me holding the case, and that can only entertain a viewer for so long. Um, when I first started watching his video, I really thought it was going to be that same thing. I really thought
I did too.
7 minutes we're going to be watching about him, moving around the case. He might flip around to the back of the case. He might open it up and show us what the disc looks like. But
He
I
did
was
all of
really-
those, yet so much more.
I'm glad.
I was so pleasantly surprised when he started bringing out the stills, and then to overlay the text over top of it. This is this guy, he's the badass. This is this guy, he's the dumbass. I found that
That was
found
very clever.
It was so refreshing to watch it because he kept me entertained. It's so easy just to do a still review, but to be able to do it with humor, he almost did it without really trying too hard, just by simply adding those overlays, by having the zombies with the little irk and the little sound effects that they were making. It was very, very refreshing. And I really got to say, I don't know if it had anything to do with what I said last week or his last challenge, but I said I really wanted to see him step out of his safe zone.
Right.
And while I was really expecting a toy, well, what I ended up getting was something very, almost to the points of like a Shades at Night, a toy GNR, like the guys who do this on a regular basis. I really think he did a great job on it.
I like this video a lot, like everybody else. I was like, is he just gonna leave the case there and like point at it? And then when he started cutting in, the pictures and whatnot, I was really happy they did that, because I was a little worried. I'm like, this is gonna get really boring really fast. But
I start talking about the articulation.
yeah, these tabs open to a 190 degree. I really liked we talked about the copyright, because I didn't know that, and I have like a $3 copy from Walmart, and I was always curious why that was, given that such a popular movie, and that actually kind of explained it. If I had any real critique of the video, it's that I thought the joke at the beginning fell kind of flat, where he's like, we're not going to review Night of the Living Dead, we're going to review Night of the Living Dead. I felt like if he had like 1 or 2 more copies of the same movie, that joke would have worked more. But as it was,
Yeah.
I was like, that was just a weird...
No, he said that because of the remake.
Yeah, the first copy was the '90s remake that Tom Savini
But
directed.
it said it was George A. Romero's.
He was the
Both
main
are.
producer.
Okay,
Yeah, he
I
still
didn't
did
know
it, he
that.
just didn't
I retract my complaint. I thought it was
I
weird.
thought the joke was hilarious.
It makes more sense knowing that now, because I thought George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. No, we're reviewing. I was like, oh, that's weird. Now that I know that joke is a lot funnier. I apologize.
So Eric has no critique.
I have no critique.
By the way, the '90s remake is a solid flick. I'm just gonna toss that out there. So,
I agree. I like that.
That's the only one I've seen. I haven't seen this one.
yeah, the other one is very depressing. I think it's interesting that he uses modern terminology to define aspects of an older film, and he's applying modern terminology to certain things. And he's not necessarily falling into the trap of critiquing it with a modern eye, but he's using modern terminology. Like he calls Ben a badass. Well, if you went back to the '60s, you wouldn't necessarily go, "Well, that guy's a badass." You'd say, "Well, there's a strong."
Not in the
protagonist."
company of others.
No,
Not
but-
on my channel.
Ever. Wait a second. I happen to really agree that Ben is a badass. In fact, I've made several jokes while watching this movie singing Big Ben. He's slapping up fires with his hand and things like that. He's a pretty strong type of character to shove into this movie. Now, what I think is interesting that he doesn't touch upon, he doesn't get into the social climate of the 60s. And I think that is something that really could have been talked about, civil rights and the status of women in the 60s. Because he says that the female characters really served nothing other than to be eaten. So he's got a point. but he doesn't elaborate on it in a social stance, and I think he could have done that. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he just prefers to review the movie based on whether or not it's a good time, and which I think he largely does. He gets into some of the history of it, which I really appreciated, the copyright laws, the chocolate syrup,